Well. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2022 Oscars. What a night. For the first half of the show, I was kind of like, and then the second half happened. Will Smith happened, I should say. And then I was like, oh! So, yeah, what an interesting show it was. I watch the Oscars every year. I'm a huge film person. I always look forward to the Oscars, even though the show itself is usually not the greatest. In particular, last year was awful. I did a video talking about that one when it happened, and just how friggin' terrible of a show it was for multiple reasons. I'll probably be bringing up last year's Oscars throughout this video because I hate it so much. But, this year was an improvement for sure. I still didn't think the show was that good, but it was better for a few reasons. I mean, for one, they actually showed clips of the nominees this time. Last year didn't do that very often, and it was very weird. The show was, it was back to being like the full screen ratio. I don't know why last year they filmed it with like a different type of camera and there was like the black bars. That was just an odd thing for me. They did the order of the awards correctly, so they didn't have Best Actor last. It was just a more traditional Oscars in that sense. There were still some things I was annoyed by, mainly like the cut categories and whatnot. But as an overall show, it was definitely presented in a much more traditional and proper way than last year was, because last year was just, oh boy. Just first of all, I'll just talk about the, I guess, improvements, then I'll talk about my issues, and then I'll talk about the awards. So as for the improvements, I already discussed, the normal aspect ratio and everything, and showing more clips, but they also had a really good in memoriam section this year, because last year that was one of my biggest issues, was just how disrespectful the in memoriam section was. It was so fast-paced. People got like a second or less to have their names and their faces shown. And I just thought it was quite disrespectful and very rushed. And then, we end up getting like Glenn Close shaking her butt to the debut song later on, and that's where all that time went to, I guess. So it was nice that this year they actually, honored the people correctly. It was actually probably the best in memoriam they've ever done, in my opinion, because it was much longer. People got a good amount of time. I mean, maybe it wasn't the best ever, I don't know, but it was definitely just better than last year's, and a huge improvement. And they also had some people come up on stage and just talk about some of the people a little bit, which was really cool. Like hearing about Ivan Reitman, I did not know about his childhood, so hearing Bill Murray talk about that was really cool. So definitely a massive improvement in that regards. Otherwise, I mean, it was nice having the orchestra back. They never stood out to me, though. They didn't really play scores from, like, any of the movies that often or anything, so that was a little disappointing, but it was definitely better than last year, where we just had the DJ who was playing, like, MLG air horns and just really out-of-place, like, funk music when, like, the lady from Minari was accepting her award, and they were playing, like, this, like, disco beat. Like, it was terrible last year. So this year, it was nice that things felt more regular. It'll be interesting to see where the ratings on this one land. I know that last year's was like a 1 point something, which is atrocious. But yeah, as for my issues, okay, so the cut categories was obviously annoying. This is something that everybody was complaining about before the show even happened. Show all 23 or whatever that trend was. Here's the thing, my take on this is I'm okay with them cutting, like, the documentary short subject, like, the documentary, those ones, or like the short films, best animated short film. I can understand cutting those, to be completely honest. I still think it'd be nice to have them, but if they're going to cut anything, I'd say cut those ones. But cutting, like, film editing, which is, like, a huge part of movies, cutting sound, cutting score, like, those are just awards that I feel like, there's a lot of audio stuff with them, obviously, and so I feel like you should be, like, hearing those nominees, right? Like, when they say the nominees for Best Sound, you should hear the sound effects from the movie, or when they're doing score, you should hear the score for those films. So just brushing over them was really disappointing. I was happy that Dune won, a lot of those technical awards, and that was nice, but, for example, like, 2020, I loved the way that they did Best Score that year. The way they handled it in that awards season, that's where you had, like, Joker winning Best Score. The way they did it then was they had the orchestra play snippets from every nominated movie. So they would say the nominees for Best Score, and they'd say Joker, and then the orchestra would be playing the Joker score, and then they would say Marriage Story, and then they would transition into that. And it was just a really nice way of doing it, because you got to hear all those scores right before the the winner was announced. This year it was just pre-recorded, and then they would just show the acceptance speech really quickly, and that was it. And in the case of score, it was unfortunate because Hans Zimmer, my favorite composer, wasn't even there. So it was just basically Jason Momoa saying, we accept this on his behalf. But yeah, I mean, so the cut category thing was kind of annoying. And in its place, was more humor. And the jokes were very hit or miss this Oscars. I'll be honest, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I didn't think Amy Schumer was, like, unbearably bad or anything. There were some jokes she made that I didn't like. Like, when she brought up the war in Ukraine towards the end, it was very awkward, and there wasn't really any laughs in the audience. It was just a very kind of out-of-place moment, in my opinion. The Spider-Man thing was kind of stupid and whatnot. But whatever. Like, she didn't piss me off. I wasn't like, oh, God. The other two ones were fine, although I will say the one section where, I don't remember the actress's name, but she was making jokes about, like, doing COVID tests, and she was like, okay, I need to take all these guys to the back. It was like Timothée Chalamet, Josh, whatever the actors were she was talking about, and she was saying, like, she'll do, like, a deep throat test with, like, her tongue, and saying, like, all these things, and then, like, pretending to, like, grope Josh Brolin and whatnot. I was just like, okay, reverse the genders of this situation, and yeah, things would not go over well. Like, all of those jokes, if you had a guy saying that joke and he's bringing women up, it would be like a Me Too cancellation moment, right? Especially when every Oscars they're always talking about, like, this Me Too type stuff. So it was just a very, stupid situation, in my opinion. Like, just the joke was out of place, it was awkward, and it was also very kettle black. Like, just, I don't know, it was really stupid. So that part was really dumb in my opinion. Like I said, if they just reversed the roles, it would not go over well. So that was dumb. And then there was also that one section, like, it was basically an advertisement for the Oscars Museum, which looks like a cool place, but that was so unnecessary. There was only one good joke there, which was the orc mask from, like, Lord of the Rings. She was like, oh, look, it's Harvey Weinstein. That was funny, but the rest of it was just, like, they're just advertising their museum. And because of that, we don't get to see, like, these other awards get their full recognition. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Those were my pros. Those were my issues. There was a lot of just, like, presenters who would come up and their jokes would be very, like, flat and just awkward. Didn't really work. And I just felt like the show in general felt kind of rushed. Even though it was actually longer than last year's, it did just feel rushed. I think part of it was just the way they handled those cut categories. But then they just were, like, really moving through things. Just, to me, it didn't really work well. Anyways, with that out of the way, now I'm going to talk about the Will Smith moment, which is, like, the biggest thing of the show. This is what everybody's going to be talking about. You can forget the awards themselves. So Chris Rock comes up on stage, and he's instantly funnier than, like, any of the other people there tonight. Like, his 1 minute section was funnier than anything that the hosts had to say that entire show. So yeah, he had some funny jokes. He brought up Will Smith, and then he brought up Jada Pinkett Smith, and, like, he said something about, I look forward to seeing you in G.I. Jane 2, just referencing, like, her short hair, which I thought was a funny joke. I didn't realize at the time that Jada Pinkett Smith apparently has a form of disease which is causing her to, like, lose her hair. So yeah, it's a little, like, risque of a joke, but they also made hair jokes previously in the show, obviously not something to do with disease, but they were talking about, like, LeBron James's hair earlier, so obviously different subject, but so yeah, the joke, it's like a hit or miss one. Like, some people might not find it funny. I thought it was pretty hilarious. But Will Smith did not think it was funny. He came up on stage, he smacked Chris Rock in the face, which I thought was staged at first, but then they muted the telecast, and I was like, that's awkward. I was like, is that an accident, or is, like, there swearing going on right now? And then you see Will Smith sit down, and he's, like, yelling, and, you're trying to read his lips. It looks like he says the F-bomb. And then you watch the clip later, on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, and you can hear the uncensored version. He's like, don't talk about my fucking wife. And he yells it so loud, and it's like, oh shit, no, that was actually real. Which is...
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
I'm going.
Which is an over fucking reaction. Like, chill the hell down, Will Smith. Like, yeah, we get it. You're defensive over your wife who's, like, cheated on you multiple times. It's just like, holy crap. Like, he blew up there. Chris Rock was great in my opinion, but whatever, it is what it is. Yeah, that was a huge moment though. That's all that people are going to be talking about from the show, like no doubt. But yeah, I think Will Smith very much so mishandled the situation. But you know, what happens happens. Anyways, let's talk about the actual awards now, the winners. So I'm gonna skip like all of the short subjects and the documentary ones because I don't watch any of those films. I'll just be discussing like, you know, the main categories. So supporting actress, we had Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. That was my prediction. I thought she was great in the movie. She's been winning like everywhere else, so she kind of just seemed like the safe bet, and she took home the award. So really good performance. I also liked her acceptance speech. I thought it was a pretty good one. None of the acceptance speeches really stood out to me tonight, to be honest, but yeah, I thought hers was solid. Best makeup and hairstyling went to Eyes of Tammy Faye. Haven't watched it, can't really speak on that. It wasn't really my prediction because I haven't seen it. I think I might have said it was my prediction in the video just because that's what everybody else was saying, but my personal pick for makeup and hairstyling probably would have been like Dune or something if it was my own choice. Then we had production design, which went to Dune. The movie had great production design, like I won't deny that. I thought it looked awesome. I also thought though that you know, some of the other nominees were phenomenal as well. In particular, I thought that Nightmare Alley looked great. I thought that Tragedy of Macbeth looked fantastic. So if any of those three films won, I would have been incredibly happy. And Dune took home the award, so that was great. Then we had, I'm just looking at the list on my phone, I'm not going to remember this off the top of my head. We had Best Film Editing, which also went to Dune. Deserved, you know, great movie, very well made and well put together. Best Original Score, once again, Dune. Dune took home 6 awards. It got the most of the night, most of the technical ones, which was great to see. And yeah, Dune had an awesome score. Like, Hans Zimmer is my favorite composer of all time. My favorite score, period, is Interstellar, which he unfortunately and very stupidly did not win for. But I do think, though, that this score was phenomenal. I'm glad that he won for it. Sucks we didn't get an acceptance speech, so maybe sometime in the future he'll be nominated again, hopefully. Best Sound, again, Dune. Best Cinematography, again, Dune. Best Special Effects, again, Dune. So like I said, it swept all of those technical awards. It was definitely like from a technical standpoint, like the most standout movie. It was kind of this year's or last year's Mad Max Fury Road. Obviously different films, but big spectacle action movie that wins like all the technical things. Then we had animated feature, which went to Encanto, which I really liked Encanto. My personal pick was Luca. I'm not a fan of Mitchells vs. Machines, which a lot of people are. That seems to be kind of the popular pick. I didn't really like the movie that much. I thought the humor was quite annoying. Luca was just the one that I enjoyed the most. But I'm happy with Encanto winning. Encanto was the movie that was the most popular as of recent. Ever since it hit Disney Plus, that film just blew up, especially with Don't Talk About Bruno. Best International Feature by default went to Drive My Car. That was not a surprise whatsoever, considering it's the only one of those movies to be nominated for Best Picture. Troy Kotsur won for Supporting Actor, which was great. Really liked him and Coda. Loved that movie in general. I thought Coda was fantastic. Costume Design, Cruella, which I predicted. Original Screenplay, Belfast. I think my prediction was between Belfast and Licorice Pizza. I'm kind of surprised Licorice Pizza came out with nothing. I'm not like shocked, I should say, but I was still expecting it to maybe get screenplay. But it went to Belfast, which I think was deserved. I thought Belfast was a really good movie. Adapted screenplay, Coda. That did surprise me, honestly. I thought that we were going to see adapted screenplay go to Power of the Dog, but it went to Coda, which I'm happy with. Because to be honest, I'm not a very big fan of Power of the Dog. I admire the movie from a technical level. I think it's well made and everything. I think the performances are good. It's just a really, really slow movie, and I don't have an issue with slow burns, but usually slow burns, I find something to kind of keep my attention going on, whether it's like, really interesting, deep story or just something like that, or like an emotional connection. But I just didn't have any of that with Power of the Dog. I just was kind of like, okay, yep, the movie's going along. And then like the last 20 minutes happen. It's like, okay, that's a good ending. But otherwise, like the movie doesn't really do much for me. Best Original Song went to Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell for No Time to Die, which I predicted, the song that came out 2 years ago. But yeah, really great theme, so that was nice. Best Director went to Jane Campion, Power of the Dog. She immediately goes up there and says something about like that was a very serious speech, or something like that. Very dramatic, she says, to what's his name, to Kevin Costner, and you could just see he was kind of like, oh, because you can tell that was a speech he like poured all of his heart into, and then she just immediately says something about it like that. Not very controversial, but, you know, she did have that controversial moment last week when she talked about Serena Williams and whatever. But, yeah, I mean, again, out of the nominees, I guess I was fine with her winning. I don't really care either way. For me, I think that Denis Villeneuve should have been nominated and should have won, but obviously he just wasn't even nominated, which was stupid. Then we have Best Actor in a Leading Role, Will Smith for King Richard. Very awkward acceptance speech, just given what had just happened at the show. Because it kind of felt like that was that giant shadow over his acceptance speech, just because that's all people are thinking about is like, oh yeah, the guy that just slapped and freaked out at the awards show. He kind of like, he apologized to the Academy. It was like a half acceptance speech. I don't really know how to describe it. But I don't know. I mean, like, I thought Will Smith was great in the movie, so I am fine with him winning, but I just, again, think he really mishandled that whole thing. Then we had Actress in a Leading Role, Jessica Chastain for Eyes of Tammy Faye. Haven't seen it, but, you know, I heard she's good in it. And then Best Picture went to Coda, which I am very glad about, because it was really between Coda and Power of the Dog, it seemed. I was really hoping it would be Power of the Dog, and Coda won, and I was very happy with that. Coda is not my personal favorite of the nominees. It's probably like my third or so, but I still think it's a great movie. I loved it. I don't know what the internet reaction is going to be to it. If it's like, you know, oh, it was a great movie, deserved it kind of situation, or if it's going to be more of like a, you know, Green Book situation where people were like, that was the very easy pick. It should have been something else. But I think it deserved it. I thought it was an excellent movie. And that was my thoughts on the Oscars. So yeah, I know me talking about what won isn't as interesting as everything else, but overall, I thought it was a award show, but glad I watched it, and I look forward to whatever is next year. So I will be back then to talk about next year's award show. See you then.